So what do you think is most effective? Talk about 10 things that make people successful, or maybe just 3 and start there and see where it goes.
I think one of the interesting things to talk about, like I had a call with a creator at the end of my day today who often gets stuck on things because she's afraid that the work that she's doing will be judged or not valued. So there could be something about hang-ups or maybe or blocks, like mental blocks getting through work, mindset perhaps.
Right, the blocks mindset topic that pops up over and over again. What are the top blocks then? What are the biggest blocks that you have encountered over the last years?
Not being recognized, or the fear of not being recognized or undervalued for work is a big block. The fear of being called out for a fraud, so like imposter syndrome, I think is what that's called. Even though they've worked in like an industry for 15 years or 20 years or whatever, people are still afraid that they're going to be called a fraud.
So don't you think sometimes, Mark, it's like, even though they could have everything like perfect and they know they are that good, like they have the credentials and everything, but there can be something so small that like it's the cover photo on their app or their hero image that could sometimes last months where we just can't get it perfect. And that could be overshadowing or highlighting that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, perfectionism, I think, is definitely a symptom of imposter syndrome. You know, like, oh, I gotta get every little detail correct, and then another symptom would be lost in the details. It's like someone was like, oh, I can't start my marketing campaign because I haven't thought about like the smallest detail down to how to spell a word or something. You know, it's always something minute and either far down the road or totally inconsequential.
I see that. I almost feel like that's sometimes like a spider web. You know, we were talking earlier today, we were discussing funnels and things, and like the idea is making people go down a track. But our creators sometimes will try to create a funnel where they get lost up here and there's one piece, and they're like, but what if this and what if that? And then it ends up they're going around this whole spider web in like all these different if and buts to end up just coming full circle to the same thing.
Makes sense. It's a quite interesting train of thought, right? That you're outlining there. You're coming from like not being valued, not being recognized, fraud, imposter, perfection paralysis, lots of details, spider webs of like this and that, and like it's all connected, and then questioning likely everything. And then at some point, I don't know, giving up potentially, still trying to push, becoming even more insecure, getting one wrong comment from a friend, and then that's it. What do you think? Is that correct?
I think one of the benefits that like plus creators have is that they have CSMs like Jarret and I and the others to push them and to like get them out of that mindset and tell them, you know, like, hey, you're an expert. You'll be fine. Don't worry about the small details. Just like get this task done first. Create the one video for the product launch that you really need to create, and stop thinking about that little detail about, you know, like what format the video is going to be in or something. Like, don't worry about that right now. Just do it. You'll be fine.
Is that, just I'm super curious actually, is it going the direction of creating an actionable plan with very simple first steps or next steps? Or does it also sometimes go into psychotherapy almost?
I don't know about the others, but I know that I play a therapist like 40% of the time.
Uh-huh.
And we can have simple, actionable plans. You know, please, like, it's just like, hey, get your the simplest thing, get your branding assets in, you know, your colors with the hex codes. Here's what a hex code is. Get your logo, 1024 by 1024 in pixels. Here's what a good logo looks like, and provide that. And then people will get lost in the detail of that sometimes. You know, it's like, well, what color should I have my logo? Should I follow some sort of rubric or some sort of standard? And we can answer these questions like all week long, you know, but you have to make a decision at some point.
It's almost like you're fighting, what's that called? Like we have like this story where the guy fights windmills, like 1,000 and windmills. There's always a new windmill coming. I don't know if there's something in the States which just resonates too, but ultimately you tell them how to do the logo, but then there's more questions coming than what you can actually answer, because it's more a mindset thing. How do you get out of that actually? How do you help customers to get out of that?
I think it's probably the trickiest one. And I think maybe I can speak for myself. Maybe Mark, you similar with it, but sometimes it can take a really long time. I've been working with creators in their third year with me, and we're kind of still in the same boat, right? We're making small little wins, but it's a to me is trying to get the momentum going, trying to give these small little things and celebrating these smallest things. Even as far as the first post on Instagram, amazing. That's the best thing you can do. Well done. Now let's look at the next one. Having these small little micro wins along the way it's like chipping away at it, and eventually they launch their app and they put it out there, and that's really daunting, of course. But with small little wins along the way, I feel they get there.
You give them almost a different mindset, because I mean, I personally struggle sometimes to celebrate. I would be like, okay, if one person, right, like followed or bought or whatever, like this is I thought it's going to be hundreds, so I'm like mad at it, but you're like celebrating it, right? So getting into this positive mindset, and consistently having someone that like reminds me, actually, it's not too bad. It's baby steps, but better than nothing. I'm actually doing the thing. So I think that at some point, I think was helpful. It's really helpful. Mark, you want to say something?
I think Jarret's onto a good point, right? It's celebrating small wins is a big part of moving people kind of forward, and it could be for people who are working by themselves. A good way to move themselves forward is whatever progress you have is progress, right? And I tell my creators that all the time. It's like baby steps are steps, and that means we're moving. So let's not like get down in the dumps or stop working on this launch. Let's keep pushing forward and doing the thing. And a lot of the time, it's for me. I just have to be the person there that keeps them accountable and pushes them forward, and maybe even holds their feet to the fire when a self-imposed deadline is looming.
Let's see, for someone that doesn't have you, right, as a coach or accountability partner, like what are the best tactics that they can use in order to hold themselves accountable, keep pushing forward, being more positive, and celebrating more?
I always starts with the end goal. What do you want to do? So whether that's like your launch date, whether that's like coming up with a new product or your app going live, and then work backwards and like fill in all the little blanks. But like go small. It can be super small. Get in your icon for your app ready, doing the app description, and having these small little wins. And I want to tell you both a story that I heard, like on an Instagram reel or something to that effect. And it was this old military sergeant person who said every morning at 5 a.m., the head person in the military, I don't know all the lingo, but anyway, this like sergeant major, for instance, comes in and they checked if the bed was made. And to us, like I've never been in the military or anything. I think that's like kind of like fine. That's weird almost, if I want to say that. But he took it the other side and said to him it was they've accomplished a task first thing in the day. So they've got up, they've done something, and they accomplished it, which makes the next task for the day easier and easier and easier because it creates this like snowball effect. And when I watched that, I was like, wow, so many creators could resonate with this. Having that small task done, making your bed in the morning, it sets you already in a good stead for the day.
Right.
I love that.
5 a.m. and already successful.
Yes.
Shoot,
Okay,
waking up at
perfect.
5 a.m. is already a success. Can't get me out of bed at that time.
That is true. Holy crap! Like, wow, getting it. I mean, I have like with the kids, and I work usually because I also have so many calls in the US time zones until like 1, 2 a.m., right? And then the little ones come once, twice, 3 times a night. Getting up at 5, then I would be in a very different. I mean, I get up at 8, right? Or 7, 7:30 or something like that. And then I rush it to daycare. But yeah, it's definitely on the edge. With less sleep, couldn't do it. I would be here. You wouldn't get a word out of me. You know what is interesting? Many creators that I interviewed, and it's more than 250, I think, by now, I'm actually surprised that they're not like working 100 hours. They're not sleeping 4 hours. They're doing normal times, maybe even less than 40 hours what they work, and they sleep like 7, 8, 9 hours, like completely normal, right? So there's no pressure, I think, of this like, oh, you have to be in the 5 a.m. club and the 4 a.m. club, you have to do all these 55 things in order to, be able to have the skills to launch something or become successful. I think that's kind of like something which is portrayed on the channels, that you have to be this person to be successful. But I think, at least what I found in the data, it's not true. If you think the creator economy is really interesting, then I got something for you. On milliondollarcreators.club, we actually created a database of all the creators out there, and you see not just their fans, followers, subscribers, but actually how much money are they making. So with that, we bring now transparency into the creator economy, and you really see how are the best of the best get their customers, price their offers, create their offer stack, get customers, which tools are they using, how will they grow and triple their business going forward. So if that's interesting for you, including lists of who makes the most revenue, who has the fastest revenue growth, who has the biggest audience, who has the fastest growing audience, who makes the most revenue per follower, and who has the most exciting offer stack from low end all the way to the high end, then go to milliondollarcreators.club and enjoy the data.
I was just going to say, I think like back in the day, maybe before the market we find ourselves in nowadays, right, where everything's digital, online, like the creator market, as an entrepreneur, right, it was drilled into you, if you're going to start your own business, you're going to be working 24/7, right? But I work with creators that believe in a 4 hour work week, right? They get their job done, they put all their meetings
Yeah.
within a couple hours, and they're making money. I had a call yesterday. The guy's sitting on the beach in Greece on vacation with his family, earning passive income. And I'm like, this is not like just some sales pitch. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely sitting there, he's got a webinar to a sales checkout. He's got these people that are paying a monthly subscription on 2 different tiers, and he just did the hard work. He celebrated the small wins, and
Mm-hmm.
he's literally sitting on the beach in Greece, like offering me a beer next to him.
Yeah, I love that. I think two things here. So I agree, some work like very little. Like I think the lowest I heard was 10 hours a month, like 2.2. And then I asked, like, is it 2.25 hours per week? And she's like, yeah, exactly. And then second, some really struggle to define what work actually is, because the ones that are really found their zone, this doesn't feel like work. I'm having fun. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm enjoying this, right? So it doesn't really feel like work. And so sometimes it's then hard to understand how much they really work, but yeah, it's interesting.
I think another thing about how many hours you can or do work, a lot of people have responsibilities, especially when like you're an adult, you have kids. Sometimes people have grandkids, and they're making an app, um, and maybe they run a company as well. So they might not just have like the time to throw into it, but we have creators who are in those positions who are putting in maybe 8, 9, 10 hours a week and still seeing revenue, still seeing success.
Right. I think this is a good transition to also actually connect to the previous topic, which is there's this mindset, right, where you're like stuck in the spider web and not being valued and all of that. And then you help them to be accountable and to take baby steps and to celebrate. Um, so let's talk about some of these stories then. What are some of the strongest, biggest transformations that you have seen or maybe even helped support? And yeah, if you could like share something there, someone that comes to mind that maybe over time really changed and transformed. Because I mean, the background is this, right? Let's say people with that mindset not successful, and then there's another type of people where maybe we talk about that also in a moment, where they're like super successful and you just like sense with the mindset that they're going to be successful. But before we talk about that, like, who are the people that were able to switch from the old mindset to the new mindset? And maybe what enabled them to become successful and unlock that transition?
I was going to mention Anne. Anne is one of these. Yeah, she's great. I love Anne. She's a lot of fun. Uh, Anne's a grandma. She's a grandmother, and she's been running her own. We'll call it a practice. She helps people with trauma healing and this sort of work. and she's, between grandkids and her family and work that's offline, she doesn't have a lot of free time. And on top of this, I don't want to mention her age, but she's into her years, and tech can be a daunting thing. And in the beginning, when I started working with Anne, that was probably the one thing, the one block that we were always working on. It's like just getting over the tech. How do I use this thing? How does this thing work? What does it do? And with some persistence and celebrating those small wins of getting small things to work, she became comfortable, and she doesn't need my help so much with the tech anymore. We have everything set up, and she knows how to use it. She knows how it runs, and if there's an issue, she'll reach out, but not so much anymore. And she's getting revenue. She's finding success, and I'm super proud of her and super happy that she's gotten that far.
Nice.
That's amazing. I mean, Anne's one of the people that have been going 3 years as well.
Yeah, she's on her third year with us.
Yeah.
She's been with us for a while. And she's probably,
That's amazing.
She's either my longest creator or my second longest creator that I've been working with consistently.
Yeah. I still remember her first draft of her logo, to be honest. I think it's probably still somewhere on Google Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, we've come a long way. Yeah, she's been great. And
describe the draft. Like, how drafty was the draft?
If I remember correctly, and this is no offense to anyone, because like I've had more than one person do it this way. It was written on a piece of paper with a photo and taken a photo with the phone. And it was amazing because like that shows like determination and a vision. Some people don't have that, but it is just classic. Now to hear this story, I mean, I haven't checked in on every single creator with Marck, but that's amazing to hear. And it's come a hell of a way. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm looking at the photo now, and it's probably a couple dozen different versions, all done in blue ballpoint pen on white paper.
Can you share before after?
You want to see it?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Let me pull it out here. There she is.
That's the first app icon?
That's the first vision. The first vision of her logo for the app icon, yeah.
Oh, got it. So it's kind of like a back on the envelope little draft where she thought, okay, this is how it could be, and she sketched it on paper. Okay, but that makes sense. And then what? Like she gave it to a designer, or you built it for her, or you figured out together on what tool to use to get to a real logo, or how did that work?
Jarret, do you remember what we did? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was when we first had Plus. There was the design elements where we would draw up your logo. So I think we probably just live drew it with like InDesign or Illustrator or something.
Canva or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a service that we don't offer anymore. That's how long she's been with us.
And now there's Canva, right? You just go in, build it down.
It's a godsend. Canva's one of the greatest tools.
It really is, right? Like I spent so much of my youth trying to figure out Photoshop and like how the changes have come over the years. I still pay for it, and like Canva does it in a split second with like a click of a button. Like it's just crazy.
It's interesting how simplicity, right, is ultimately disrupting the market. You come from Adobe Photoshop, then I would say, Paul, what else was there? Sketch was at some point the thing. Then Figma came. Figma was like, you could do cool things and so many features. And then Canva came. And it was like always less features. But like it became simpler and simpler, right? Which is super ironic because we always have this conversation that we need more features, right? And here come the tools that are simpler. And they became becoming more and more successful. It's interesting. Okay.
I love just what you said there, because I feel like even with our creators, Marck, we probably go through this as well when they come with so much different ideas, like different products, different pricings, different types of content, and the simpler they drill it down, the simpler they come with their contents, the easier it becomes as well. Like simple is key. It's manageable, scalable.
Yeah.
It's just like it clicks.
Yeah, you're both onto good points, because this is one of the blocks that I was going to mention. It's that being overwhelmed with all the offers you have as a creator. And then part of our job is help them focus and drill in on one first. Get started somewhere and then scale from there.
I had definitely people on the show as well where they struggle to say like what the offers actually are, because there were either so many, or and then they usually don't make a lot of revenue. I mean, some people do, but some people have a lot of offers without making any revenue, and yeah, like it's even confusing to them, I would argue. What I also would say is that simplicity is the ultimate complexity, right? So really getting your message clear in a way that you know exactly what you're talking about, and it's so to the point and it lands so well with the other person. It's not so easy to get there, actually. Quite often you start with something which like clicks for you to 80%, but also not to 100%, and then to the others to 40% or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And getting the message there. I think the people that really nail the messaging is such an asset. It's like it's such a thing. If you have that done well and it clicks with people and you know how to sell it, then almost doesn't matter like what you use. You just like convert like crazy. You just have to get the message out. What do you think?
Yeah. It's almost like the elevator pitch, right? Like
Yeah.
you only have a certain amount of finite time to really get that point across as well. I've often, because we record our calls, I've often sent recordings when the creator will come up with like this like perfectly good little nugget, right? And just say, "Cool, I'll send that to you," and then they get this perfect nugget to like rewatch. They're like, "Whoa, that made so much sense." And it is that clicking moment that you're referring to, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good tool to do to be able to clip those things. I still use it myself as well. When somebody says something that's like a almost an epiphany, and then you're like, "Oh, it's a sound bite," and that's gonna be fantastic. I'll send that to you afterwards. And I also think it's one of these things that requires persistence. You can be lucky, you can have like a good dialogue with your colleagues or with your CSM or whoever's helping you, and come find gold, so to speak. But uh, more oftentimes, it's just persistence. It's like putting something out there, getting feedback, understanding that that's not reflective of who you are as a person or a professional. It's just good feedback, and then making a new iteration and trying again.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, there's like right now this thing everywhere on social is like you have to do the reps. You have to do the reps, right? Do 100 posts, do 100 reps, do 100 sales calls, do 100 whatever in order to like first know what you're actually doing or be able to talk about it. And one experience I can share is with the podcast, right? I would say after doing 100, 200, it more and more clicked. I became more and more natural in how I say what I say, also connecting the questions. And even though, right, I started with I wanted to ask the perfect questions, the ones that like creating the best answers, the biggest emotions, gold on social media. Like when people answer and like hear these and all of that, like will go viral, right? And like with that ambition, I started, but then of course, like I looked at it after the first 10 recordings, and it was so fucking cringy. I couldn't barely look at it. I was like, let's delete all of that stuff and start from scratch. Like this is disgusting. This stuff shouldn't be allowed on the web. It's like is shameful. I cannot look at this anymore, right? And then yeah, I don't know. At some point, it just got better and better. And then I think even like the stuff that I'm doing now, and in 3 months from now, I would like cringe at what I'm doing now. So I think that's a good validation that apparently I'm growing or progressing. And arguably, if I feel this like imposter thing, which we also touched upon in the beginning, right? Like, oh, this is not good enough or whatever, that this is actually an epiphany or a reflection, a breakthrough, an opportunity, arguably. I was essentially doing reps, 200 shows, and I'm like, no, feel I'm good. But then if I'm not right, if I think this is still not good enough, I today with with feeling that's not good enough, I see it as an opportunity to learn and grow and just get it out there, do more reps, and then it's something beautiful that makes me grow. So just something I want to share.
But
Yeah.
it's so true. And like, I kind of want to draw like a parallel between that, what you were saying with persistence, and like a creator story where she did the same thing. Like, so Margaret's talking about Anne with her, maybe the tech mountain that she had to climb, where this creator that I worked with, it was definitely just putting herself out there. So like imposter syndrome, a bit of a fear of like being judged. And eventually she did her first Instagram live. No one pitched, but it was fine. Like she loved it. It was a good experience and she learned. Now she does them all the time. And clearly something's working because she just surpassed 700 like downloads in her app and signups, which is like amazing, right? From going from really not much momentum to all of a sudden like things are like moving. Things are getting there. The momentum's really starting to rev up. And it's about that persistence. She can probably look back at her first one she ever did and cringe, just like you said, 100%.
I think one thing to also double click here is the 700 downloads, right? That is for, let's say, an app company, like let's say Headspace, right? Or Runtastic or whatever it is, like 700, it would be, you know, like they speak about millions, but then they also have a $10 offer, and that's it. There's nothing else, right? Many of the interviews I've done, there are people that have, I don't know, 10 customers, and they make with that 100. I just had one person just literally in the call just before we started, 10 customers a month makes 100K with that a month.
Nice.
A month, yeah. Like, so it's $1 million business with 10 customers a month.
Crazy. Amazing.
And I think that's something which people quite often get wrong. They think they need to have 758 5-star reviews on the App Store, and only then their app is good enough, right? But there's people without any review, and they're making 7 figures.
It's incredibly like the scale to which people can make, especially for an individual, like livable, respectable income. It's a lot smaller than you would think it is. And I tell creators this all the time because they get stuck in that loop too. You know, they want to create maybe a subscription that's $20 or $30 a month, and they want to then buy ad space on Facebook. That's fine. You can do that, but then you're going to be competing with all those $1 million companies or those $1 billion companies that are also doing the same thing, trying to get the same people to be on their even cheaper programs. And so one of my advice to people who don't necessarily have a business yet or a product that they know they want to sell is do that. Do a higher ticket,
Yeah.
low scale product.
I think
First.
I completely agree. One thing to share here, obviously, is hey, but this super professional company that is doing this for decades and have an amazing app is charging $20 or $10. So how can I charge more than what they are charging, right? Like this doesn't feel right. At the same time, they're selling, especially in the beginning, their time for money, and they're giving individual feedback, and they're working with people one-on-one to really helping them, like a coach, right? So the moment when you work as a coach with someone, you're immediately into the $50, $100, maybe even $200 per hour. And if you have multiple sessions of that and do that over 3 months, 6 weeks, I don't know what it is, then you're immediately in the 3 figures. And then with a few customers, you have 4 figures already, right? And that's even considered cheap for some people, because in the beginning you sell time for money. And the beauty of that as well is that you actually learn with your clients what they really need before you build any of that $20 stuff that was completely unproven. So if you want to do something super fucking risky, then you launch that $20 thing first and build out 2 years of content, 300 lessons, put it out into the App Store and hope that some people will get it. But if you want to go the safe route, have honest conversations with some people, charge, I don't know, $500 for that, and then just serve, provide value like no tomorrow, or even start for free, provide value like no tomorrow, get good testimonials, and then at some point you have the confidence that like this is actually worth money, and then take money, but start there. I think on top, what makes sense though, sometimes is to have a freebie, like a little, I don't know, PDF or lead magnet or anything where you can send people to, so that you get email addresses that allows you to go into conversations to then put people on discovery calls. But I wouldn't build out a whole offer stack from the get-go with thousands of products, courses, and so on and so forth. My opinion. What do you think?
100%. You start small and like you scale with yourself. You add more as you need. Otherwise, then we're back in the spider web. Actually, right there, that's when you'll go straight back into the spider web and trying to do it all. And like you're in the wrong end of the web when you're supposed to be at the bottom, building one simple place for your potential customers. Couldn't agree more.
And maybe connecting this then to the reps that we talked about before, like 100 posts, 100 podcasts. I think also do 100 outreach. So, Dan shared something in one of the other videos about social hacking, that if you look for new customers, you go into other profiles that are of your, let's say, role models, potentially people that are more advanced in what you want to do. And then instead of like being pissed at like they're so far and you're not, you try to engage with their people in their audience that react to the comments, right, and so on. And then you have honest and good conversations with them from human to human. And then with that, you can actually build a connection, a follow, and you can get customers who are by definition, because they follow this other person engaged with that content, are interested in your stuff as well, because you're in a similar market or adjacent market niche, whatever you want to call it. So with that, do 100 outreach, have conversations with them, and really try to find what it is that is of value, that the world needs, that you can get paid for, and that you love. And then if you have that Venn diagram, like this all comes together, I think then you have a great foundation or product market fit that you then in the second step can productize and move from selling time for money to selling product for money. What do you think of that?
I think that's such a good way to also build confidence for someone who doesn't necessarily want to post 100 times, but to do the 100 conversations, that's a lot more attainable, right? And you don't start with 100, you start with 1 today, 2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can just like build it up until you're at that point. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's kind of what we're telling our creators to do as well. Like old school door knocking, right? But now you can do it on the palm of your hand, like with social media. Just go chat to someone, walk up to them, talk to them. A lot easier when it's just from an app.
I think this is now for the blog overwhelm, right? We also spoke about the blog tech. We spoke about the blog mindset. Let's say if you have someone coming in and I bet there's people you within 10 seconds, you know that this person is going to crush it or is likely becoming very successful. How do you know? How are these? What traits do these people have?
One, I would say enthusiasm, like passion for the topic, whether or not, in some version of self-awareness. I've had people who've come in who have been very passionate about something, but stubborn and unself-aware, and they quickly find that maybe an online business isn't what they had in mind. But the people who come in with some self-awareness saying, hey, I believe that this can work, and I'm super open to making adjustments and trying something different. These are the people that stay the course and continue on their persistent journey and then find success. So enthusiasm and self-awareness are probably two of the qualities that I look for in any kickoff call.
Yeah, you can almost immediately tell, right? With how that enthusiasm comes across, and you can do a lot with enthusiasm, right? I think another layer to it is if they come in with those qualities already and they say, "Hey, this is my product," and it's not a meditation app to heal the world. It's not broad. It's like I teach people to paddle on a surfboard better. Super niche, right? With enthusiasm, with the right understanding, and also with, like, I love what you said, a bit of like openness, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It really doesn't. Done is better than perfect. I've got a creator, we're still trying to figure out some zaps. We're a year in, she's making loads of money, but we're still trying to figure out all these little tools that aren't really connecting perfectly, but it doesn't matter. we had the persistence, we had the enthusiasm, we had the right product, and we did it. The
Yeah.
softwares and tools and tricks of the trade can come.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. It's such a big difference. You see such a big difference when people don't let the hangups get in the way. Like, hey, a tool's not working. Okay, let's solve it in parallel and let's just keep doing our thing. And people who can do that flexibility, that's also one of these like key components. Flexibility is like rolling with the punches is definitely another thing that helps you stay persistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do I have a good story of flexibility? Ken is one of the best stories of flexibility. Ken has a very unique value proposition, and he knows everything about sports. Him and his son, they run a business together, giving advice about sports. And Ken, for whatever reason, just can't get some certain tools to work. And he'll go from one tool to the next, and none of them want to do what he needs. But he doesn't let it stop him. He just keeps going on with it, building content, making the app look beautiful. It's very well designed and well put together, perfectly branded. And he, without doing any marketing at all, just by either word of mouth or by happenstance, people are finding his app, and he's still making money, and he's doing nothing to promote it like directly. And it's just because he's got enthusiasm for it, and he's just like open to keep the momentum going.
Don't you think people can like sense a creator's passion for what they're doing, and on the other hand, sense if they're not really passionate and they're not really believing it, and like that
Sure.
they don't have it nailed down, and they look at the as an end user or potential customer. I wouldn't really put my money into someone that I don't think they're passionate about it. Like lack of
I think,
authenticity, if you will.
yeah, I think people, consumers like me, if I'm spending my money, we can sense trepidation. That feeling of uncertainty in those people. This is one reason why um, confidence sells. You can sell anything with confidence, even if that thing is broken. Um, and and I mean that's an unfortunate fact. Sometimes people just don't have the confidence to sell, but that's where like persistence comes in. You build your confidence. You may not have it today, and that's okay. Self-awareness, flexibility, and you'll have it tomorrow or the day after.
I think we're getting closer to the root of this. I like it. I like it. Because what we identified is, hey, it's not that this person is better in tech or this person is a design whiz or whatever. It's like, no, this person is passionate about their thing, right? This person is flexible. So it's like, okay, I can be flexible, I can be da. But on the other hand, actually it's hard. Like how to be enthusiastic if you are I don't know, like not really convinced about what you're doing, how to become confident if you're not confident, if you're an imposter. Like these are just like pretty intense things. And I think this also shows that being an entrepreneur, being a creator entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, in order to master, in order to succeed, like this whole journey of you being mastering it or cracking the riddle or making sales and succeeding with it is the ultimate personal development tool. Because only if like Joe Dispenza says, your personality creates your personal reality. And that means if your personal reality is not what you like, then you have to change your personality, because a new personality or different personality would create a different personal reality, right? It's just like so intense, right? You have to really work on yourself, and you have to be up for it. And it's very, very painful, but then it also can be very, very rewarding. And now, like, it gets even more interesting, because passion comes from the Latin word passio, which means to suffer, to endure. So this whole yes theory, seek discomfort thing, right? It's nothing compared to suffering and enduring. And the person that was most into it was Jesus Christ, with the passion of Christ. Like he died the fucking thing, right? Like that's it. Like he went all in and beyond. And I would say Mahatma Gandhi as well, and Mother Theres and you name them, they went like ballistic on their suffering, right? Which then led to their passion. So passion is not just about, oh, I'm a passion for tennis, I'm like so enthusiastic about it, but it's your own story, arguably, your story of upbringing, of belonging, and in the beginning, and becoming worthy, because in the beginning, like you couldn't walk, you couldn't eat, you couldn't say anything. You essentially, like the first 12 months of your life, you would, like, I think even the first 3 years of your life, you would just die if you're not being taken care of, right? And then all of us find a strategy in order to belong, to be worthy, to contribute. And on that journey, a lot of shit happens with mom, with dad, with she betrayed me, he betrayed me, this thing happened, that thing happened, and that led to 8 billion unique stories out there. And these are all stories of passion, of suffering, of enduring something. And so by definition, everyone has a passion. Everyone can be enthusiastic about something. So they have it in themselves already. The question is, are they embracing it? Are they aware of it? How can they untap it? Or how can they unlock it, right? And so this awareness, the self-reflection, in aligning your mind, body, and soul in order to find your passion, which is already inside yourself, to take actually positive energy from it instead of seeing it as something that holds you back, because this fucking thing happened 10 years ago. That's the reason why I suck. No, that's the reason why you are where you are right now, right? Like my girlfriend, I had like my second girlfriend also betrayed me, and I was like mad for 10 years. But I think, like, long story short, is one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur. Yeah, so without that fucking thing, I would be likely, I don't know, be an accountant. I don't know what I would be, right? So it's a fucking powerful thing. Whatever happened in your life, um, if understood correctly, is making you fucking passionate, energetic, and enthusiastic, and everyone has it in themselves by definition.
Beautiful thing. I agree. Yeah. You couldn't be more right when it comes down to like the thing that you might think um, others will judge from your past experience may be the thing that makes you you, and maybe the thing that can empower you if you just own it. And that's easier said than done. Like we said earlier, if we come back to the beginning of the call, somewhere around 40% of the work I do with creators is kind of therapy. And it's that encouragement and kind of sometimes asking the right questions. You're digging a little bit deep and finding those moments and that confidence to own those moments. And
Right.
it's painful work, yeah, but it's rewarding at the end of the day.
I think that 40% mark is probably the most rewarding piece, right? Where we can ask the right questions, be quiet when it's the right time to be quiet, hold up a mirror, and it's actually always what I say with a creator who's not sure who to market to, or whatever the reason is. I'm like, but who are you, right? What do you do? What's your experience? What's your story? Because you're so right, like that pain is most likely the thing that can just unlock it all for them. And other people can see that. Then out comes the authenticity, and then out comes the momentum, and then people relate again even more. And that's like when it clicks so beautifully like that, it really is the most rewarding time.
I agree. In my interviews, I ask many people about not just their mission, but also what they did in their previous life, and that what tipping point or inflection point actually changed their old life and transitioned into their new one. And it's always like um, divorce, suicide, thoughts, depression. Like, no one is like, yeah, I did this and then I did that and I became successful and that's it, right? Like, it's not how it works. It's just not how it works. There's so much hardship until they couldn't take it anymore, and then they had to just free themselves from the shackles or whatever, right? And quite often also women midlife crisis always try to adhere, like do the career, kids, house, husband, all of a sudden turning 40 and it's like shit, like my life actually, I thought it's going to be, I would be different by now. And then at some point it all switches and they change, and it doesn't matter if they're like in their 40s, even 50s, all of a sudden they get this new identity, they made that step, and that alone, even without making any revenue, is already for them so freeing, so fulfilling, that it just feels like this thing that was overdue for decades and now finally it's happening, and that is so rewarding and is making them so grateful that yeah, I mean, of course at some point bills have to be paid, but not in the first 30 days. uh, and I think that's also quite interesting.
If bills could be paid in the first 30 days, sign me up, right?
Everyone would be an entrepreneur. Everyone would be an entrepreneur. It's just
Everyone would
like,
be doing it.
yes, let's make that million now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
No, it
my
takes
advice to
time.
anybody, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It takes time. My advice to anybody who thinks about, hey, I want to make an app and I think I can make money in the 30 days, go get a job. Like you'll make money in 2 weeks. Go get a job and and come back when you're ready to wait for that first paycheck. It's not going to happen in the first 30 days, and if it does, who knows if it's sustainable. So it takes time, persistence.
I find that phrase, I want to make my money in 30 days, I want return on my investment in 30 days, is almost a defense mechanism. It's like putting a safeguard out straight away because they need that safety net that they've made their money back, right? And it's about objection handling a little bit and setting the right tone and expectations for the next year and beyond. As an example, if we go back to your pricing discussion, you said, I have people coming in that want to have $10 a month app and they want to make 100 grand. I'm like, that's amazing. So I say, cool, let's do the maths. And I break it down for them, break it down X, Y, Z, like, and it ends up being like, so you can get all of these people month on month and keep saying the monthly, yes, that's what we're going to go for. And then it starts clicking and I'm like, I love the goal. Let's table it and put it towards the end of the year. Maybe we can work towards it. But right now, let's actually make you money. And we need to do hard yards. We need to do the work. We need to have the persistence. We need to have the flexibility. We need to have the enthusiasm. We need to bring out the passion. The rest comes.
I want to double click, or let's say just emphasize this more, try to understand it better. This whole topic about confidence, because it's almost like people come in with this expectation and with this certain mindset, right? And we know in order to become successful, enthusiasm, flexibility, but also confidence, authenticity, like that's all like key. So this personal change is just not doesn't happen within 30 days either, right? Like making money. How do you become, or who have you seen that has become more confident, and what did they do in order to get there?
Great question. I will look through the list of apps on my
I
phone
know
from all the
someone
creators
already.
we've worked with. You go ahead, Jarret.
Yeah.
I'll pick someone next.
Why don't I just choose the same person I already spoke about? It was from not putting yourself out there in social media to like doing the first post. Celebrating that you did the first post. That's cool. Like celebrate that first win. You should be proud that you put yourself out there. Now let's work on the next one. Right? Slow, small wins. That's like the true and tried recipe that I've done. So this is the same credit example, but it's the same for other things. Like you've built your first image for your first course in your app. Tick. Amazing. Well done. Let's celebrate this time together right now. It looks beautiful. Let's put in the app together. Momentous occasion. Right?
Yeah.
These small wins along the journey are just like the way that I see confidence come out. I see people change. Literally change.
Yeah. I'd like to comment on that actually in the following way. When you scroll through social media and you see, let's say, beautiful bodies, beautiful destinations or landscapes, happy people, all of these things, then people say like, I'm getting pissed, like I don't like this, right? Because they look at themselves, they're like, shit, like my life sucks, right? Like I don't have any of that. And then there's this like sometimes this inner voice telling you, yeah, but tomorrow I will make $1 million, or tomorrow I will find that perfect person, or you make these micro commitments in your head while you scroll through social media. And when you say these things to yourself, that like you will get there, you will get there, you will get there, but then it's one day later and you don't, another day later and you don't, then your self-confidence, so your confidence in yourself that you deliver on what you're saying, is over and over diminished and destroyed, because you consistently tell yourself stuff that you're not doing, right? Or tomorrow I will stop smoking, or I will stop alcohol. I don't know what it is, right? Like whatever you want to do, and you're not doing it. Like that just lowers your self-esteem. And what you just shared, Jarret, is you make your bed. That's what you said earlier. You make your first post. You celebrate that, right? So like, my goal is to make a post. I have done a post. This is amazing. So if you all of a sudden build a habit of doing things and delivering on these things, that makes you confident in yourself, because you know that what you're going to say is what you're going to do. And therefore, confidence is a consequence of your actions. And the awareness of what you are doing and not delivering upon, and what you're doing and delivering upon, paired with doing it, I think creates actually confidence. What do you think?
I couldn't have said it better.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
One of these examples that I have in mind, it would be Anna. And when Anna first came to us, she'd already been very successful in multiple other spaces. But when she had this idea for an app, which was helping people with mitigate pain that they have in their lives, physical pain, she wasn't sure if the product was going to work. She wasn't sure if her ideas or her expertise was valuable. But she went out there and she just delivered every day. She just did a little bit of work every day. And she kept saying, like, I don't think it's going to be successful. I don't know, but I'm going to do the steps and I'm going to get some feedback and we'll see. Now her app is literally in doctors' hands and she's speaking at conventions because her content is so powerful, and she's gone from unsure to when I met her, and 2 years later to being a powerhouse of an expert in that specific field or niche. So it's really just about going out there and putting in the work and having that kind of self-awareness to understand what it is that you need to work on. And if anything, I tell people, because they often say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow." And I think you're right, Matthias. If you don't do it tomorrow, then you're going to beat yourself up a little bit about it. And so I tell people not to focus on tomorrow. I tell people just focus on what you can do today, right? If today your goal is to do one post, then keep that in mind. Hey, I'm going to do one post today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will come in the morning and you can worry about what you're doing then. And if you just take it day by day, then you're more likely to make progress.
What my mum always used to tell me, Mark, was never put off until tomorrow what you can do today, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a good saying.
maybe now in like hindsight, all I'm hearing is saying, hey, if you put it off till tomorrow and you don't do it tomorrow, you're going to lose a bit of confidence in yourself, right?
Right. There's actually whole books about it. There's The Power of Now. There's also, I would say, David Allen, Getting Things Done. There's a 2-minute rule, which says that if you can do it in 2 minutes, do it right away. And then also I would say there's Mel Robbins with her 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you just do it, right? So you count down in your head from 5 to 1, and then you do it, and it kind of like hijacks, I think, like this train of thought that you have in your head, and you kind of like just do it. Like it's you cannot hold back then just doing things. So even like taking it one step further than doing it today is like, let's do it now. Why not?
You could also look at it on the opposite side if we don't do it, right? And I see it in my calendar. On a day to day, I've got my tasks that I need to do, things get in the way. I'm like, oh, I can move it. Then eventually I'm like, oh, I didn't do that on Monday. And now it's Wednesday. Because I've moved it once, it's easy to move it again. So I can keep moving that goalpost where if I had just done it on Monday when I put it in my calendar to do it, I would have been out the way already. I would have felt better. I would have made my morning bed, if you will, right? I would have already been there and achieved something.
Yeah. Yeah. And had less stress in the process.
Yes.
Real quick, we love creator businesses. Well, a lot of people ask us, how can I start and scale a successful creator business? Is there a blueprint somewhere? And you know what? Passion.io has put together 3 blueprints that will help you. Blueprint number 1, the Expert Unleashed Challenge, which will help you to make your first $1,000. And 80% that complete the program will hit that goal. 80%. Blueprint number 2, Expert Growth. This program will help you to hit 10K a month. And blueprint number 3, the Creator MBA. This program will pair you with a seasoned business coach that holds you accountable on your journey to then hit $100,000 or more. So if you're interested, just click the link in the description below and you can go and start today. Back to the show. What other blogs do we see? Or let's maybe just do a quick check-in. Like, what do you think is from the blogs that we talked about so far? Like, what's by far like the biggest one that like if someone can solve that block, get rid of that block, it will be 80% of the game?
Confidence, probably.
Yeah. I mean, it can be, I feel at times general enough to where you could say confidence is kind of the mother of all things. If I were to give anybody any kind of advice that works with me, I would say stop being a perfectionist. You know, like even if you're not confident, that's fine. Like you can own that. You'd be like, Anna, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm not very confident in it, but do the work.
The story that I'm telling myself though is it has to be perfect, otherwise it won't be good enough, right? So tell me a better story that I would believe in.
Oh, I've just remembered now. You did a podcast with Colin, and he told you his story, right? Milkman, shopping clerk, all of these things. And doesn't he say he's got like 8 clients now, and he earns, I think it's like 80,000 a customer or something?
Yeah.
Behind him, somewhere here in his wall, it said, "Good enough." That's it. It just needs to be good enough, and then you do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection doesn't make money.
But Steve Jobs, right? Like good enough is essentially pretty high. Like the standard for good enough is Elon Musk the same, right? It's hard to deliver good enough. There's essentially people would say it's not possible, but then he says like, yeah, well, it has to be possible, and then people have to do it.
The different standards. There's good enough for yourself, and then there's good enough for a billionaire who is a shareholder in government regulations. You know, these are not comparable. For the average creator, good enough means writing the text, choosing an image, clicking send on the post, and that's fine. That's good enough. And having, you know, like a call to action, trying to follow the best practices, and of course, never being rude, just like being open-minded or whatever. Like that's good enough. The point is to put your best foot forward, but that means that you have to put your foot forward. If you're always focused on like where you're going to put your foot, it's not moving anywhere. You know, so good enough means taking that step. It means trying your best.
I think it's so interesting because people like they have it so clear in so many aspects of their life, but then they don't when it comes to business and doing something new. So to give an example, let's say you want to do breakfast or boil an egg. You want to boil an egg, right? And you want to get it on point. Like it's not too squishy, it's not too hard. It's just right.
7 minutes apparently.
It depends, right? Like, was the egg, was it in the fridge? Was it in the fridge or wasn't in the fridge? What's the size of the egg? Was this a small one, a medium one, a big one? What's the temperature of the water where you put the egg in? Is it cold, lukewarm, warm, or even hot boiling? And all of these things. And like, what's the altitude? Like, are you right now in the mountains or are you like somewhere at the seaside, right? So all of these things have an impact on like getting to this perfect second. So now here's the thing. Will you get to this perfect egg by conceptualizing about it and trying to think it through with all these dimensions and then doing like this one try where you then nail it and like you do one single boil and like, no, this is it, right? In perfection. Or do you the fuck just like boil 100 fucking eggs and then at some point you will get a feeling, okay, this wasn't enough, this was too much, it must be less, it must be here, this is what happens from the fridge, this is when it's not from the fridge, this is like when it's big, this is when it's small, this is like la la la. Or do poached eggs, right? Like it's even more. Like try to do a poached egg, like on the first chance, like ridiculous. Yeah. Right? So my point is here, quantity leads to quality. You have to do it over and over and over and over again to actually become good at it. So if you want perfection, you only get to perfection if you do it and you just start going and do whatever. Like you have to suck in order to get good. You cannot just get good. You cannot win the Olympics on your first try. It's not possible, right? But then in business, you want it. In business, you're like, I'm launching these things. I want to boom, right? Like crush it. It's like yes, but then like all the other times, like no, of course not. Like I'm not stupid, right? Like what you talk about. But then like in business, you're doing this. Like why? What is wrong? Like why is it? And I can actually emphasize that it's fucking weird, but it's like how people are, and sometimes just like connecting to this belief pattern, which is so obvious to them in their daily life, but then it's not in business, to just like be aware, like, yeah, okay, actually, maybe I should treat it more like that and just like keep going or get started.
Yeah, but you know what I think it is? I think it has something to do with with how like we value ourselves in some fashion, or how people tend to do it anyway, which is like so closely tied to what you produce, right? Like what you create, what you make. And so if you make something and it's not perfect, or people have some feedback that isn't ideal, then that is a reflection of you as a human being. And so they throw up a wall and they're like, well, then I got to know every little thing about this topic, and I got to do every little thing exactly how Elon Musk does it or whatever. Otherwise, I suck as a human being, which is not true, of course. Like that's not true for anybody. Like your value is not tied to your work. You as a human being are good.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I think you're onto something, but you're essentially saying there's more at stake in business than boiling an egg. Like if I fuck up an egg and I just don't care, like no one is going to say like you suck. Like even like, oh, I suck, I cannot do an egg. Like who cares, right? But in business, it feels like shit. This is my, like this whole like, am I a fraud? Like this is do I actually am able to do things? Am I professional? Have I ever learned anything, or is this all just like me trying to wing it all, and at some point someone's like calling me out, right? Like all these thoughts, and it for some reason more is at stake. And if you also take money then for it, and you want to, I don't know, get this professional thing, like it's very different than boiling an egg. So I think you're onto something. It's true. Even though you have to get started, it's like the beliefs around it is harder to crack than boiling an egg.
It's funny because I had this conversation today with a creator, and I also used the cooking analogy because she's an expert in her field. She knows everything about everything. She's been doing it for over 2 decades, and she's got like the work. She's created the content, and she's ready to give it to people. She's afraid to put it out there because there's this imposter syndrome. And on top of that, there's this deep attachment or connection between her personal value and the value of her work. And trying to get through that has been difficult. So I did make the analogy. It's like, well, hey, you can judge a meal when you eat it, but you can't tell me how to cook it if you've never done it yourself, right? Like you've got to, you can't judge a meal before you cook it in that fashion. So in the same way for the egg thing. And at the same time, if you do make a bad egg or a bad meal, that's fine. Maybe someone that day says you're not a good cook, but tomorrow you're going to make a better egg or a better meal and you'll be a better cook. And the day after that, you'll be a better cook, you know? And so it is that consistency, and she already has all of the expertise she needs. It's just the feedback to learn how to be better and to get that momentum going is what she needs to build. And that's that first step that's so scary for so many people. And I get it, but our value is not tied to the work we do. Like our value as human beings is independent. And once we learn that, then it's much easier to do something with the passions that we have. And it's much easier to put ourselves out there, because then that feedback becomes more about the thing that we've made or the service that we provided and not about us as people. And I think that's really kind of the key turning point for some, when they realize that the feedback they're getting isn't about them. It's about the service, and that the creator can improve the service.
Yeah, I love that, Mark. I think that's super deep, and I love the cooking metaphor. Um, I was just sitting here thinking while I was listening to you, and you know, so if we want to think with eggs, seeing as we're on the topic of eggs, if you want to deliver this product, which is, let's call it a full English breakfast, right? You cannot deliver a full English breakfast today, because you have to learn to fry an egg first, right? So take the one egg, fry it. You're going to probably stuff it up, fry it again, fry it again. Then you've done that piece of it. So it's going back to these small wins. Once you fried it, first one, celebrate that. Once you fried your 10th one, it's probably going to be close to pretty good. Celebrate that. Then you move on to the rest of it, right? Because you just cannot deliver perfectly on day one and sell your full English breakfast in the corner cafe. It's just not going to happen.
Totally. Yeah. And you have to like English breakfast to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't cook an English breakfast if you really want to deliver pancakes.
Yeah. One of these one personal experience I had with this as well is when I was a student here in Berlin. I started doing running tours in the city, because you need money and you can't work full time. So I started doing part-time tours. And when I first started, I was terrible. And I was terrified. I was terrified of doing any tour. Like I was like, oh my God, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know if anyone's going to like this stuff. And I don't even know if I'm likable. I'm going to bomb. This is really going to suck. And to be fair, I did bomb, and it did suck for like 3 to 5 tours. But then I started to get the hang of it, and I started to do a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And then I became one of the best rated tour guides in the city. And then I opened up my own tour business, which after 2 years had the best rated food and drink tour in the city. But at first, and you can ask my parents this, they were there for like my first tour. At first, I was terrible. I was awful, but I knew I might be. And, I was okay with that. And I didn't think of it as like a reflection on me. Like, I'm cool.
How did
So
you come over that criticism, that self-criticism, or like opening yourself out? Because that's right there, like putting yourself out there for the first one was like the scary part. Like to me, maybe I'm super like cruisy and like I don't care. I'm just gonna put myself out there. Like I'll just take it on the chin. But not many people can just do that. So how did you? What did you do to get yourself there?
I'm not sure. I think I'm also in that same vein, kind of cruisy. This is like, I'm currently living in the third country I've lived in my adult life. And like that alone is kind of the same mentality, which is like, you have to take a big step and something can happen. But whatever it is, it doesn't reflect on who you are as a person, and you're going to get through it. You know, I was privileged and lucky enough to like succeed on my first try of doing that, and having people around me who supported me to help me with that. Um, and to be like young and kind of dumb enough to like not think about the consequences. Um, but I think I learned how to just put myself out there and kind of
So,
take one on the chin if I have to.
so you built enough confidence to do that, though, right? You couldn't
Yeah.
just you didn't like be okay with it in the first go. You had to like actually do the small steps first. You had to buy a plane ticket first.
Yeah. It's nerve wracking, you know. Like it's
Yeah.
not easy. It's you sweat and you're uncomfortable and like and the first place I moved to. I don't want this call to be about me, so I'll make it really short. But the first place I moved to was China, of all places, and like I didn't think anything through. So like on the way there, I had a one-way ticket, and I was like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Oh my god, this can be really terrible, you know. But when I landed, I worked it out,
Hmm.
and everything worked out well. And now we're here.
Let's take it one step further, because I think what you just shared requires a certain level of self-awareness. To give an example, in your beer tour, there would be other guides that would say, I wasn't trained enough, it rained that day, I had this asshole on the tour, or in our let's say in our business, the feature is missing, the algorithm hates me, I got these fake followers from this agency, and now my accounts are fucked. Should I create new ones? So I wouldn't say it's more about like excuses and blaming other things that are like causing their misery, and it's not them. How do you break that pattern?
I think it has something to do with like flexibility in the sense of just like doing the best with what you have. Because I've made those excuses, you know, like I don't know if I've ever said I wasn't trained enough. I probably said that, but not as an excuse, just as like a fact. I wasn't trained well, and that's okay. Like
That's what these
I
people would
that
say. They would say like it's a fact. The algorithm doesn't like me, right? It's a fact. Like I
Yeah.
have fake followers. So go on, yeah.
yeah, and that's okay. But that just means that you have something to work with. Like it's an ingredient in the meal you're making, you know, and you gotta do something with it to, I don't know, make it spicy or something.
Yeah.
But
The
whatever.
noodles that this other person bought in the supermarket are the wrong noodles. That's why why the whole meal sucked and it didn't taste well. It's just the wrong noodles.
Yeah, you can make that excuse. And during the pandemic, I learned how to cook, and I made certain dishes like dozens of times, and I've gotten the wrong noodles before. But once you've cooked enough noodles, you know, like more or less how to use them, you know? And like, I think it's once you run enough tours, you know more or less how to do it. And even if you do have that jerk on the tour who's just like heckling you and kind of giving off bad energy, that's fine. Like, that's something that you have to work with. And you just kind of counteract it or something, or work around it. Or if you're feeling like it, kick them off the tour. Get rid of the energy. You don't need
There's
it.
a there's a whole philosophy about I want a good opponent, because a good opponent is actually making me grow the most, right? So really celebrating and cheering to this person on the tour that really like drives you mad, because right, it makes you grow. You can deal with anything, and you become even stronger. So finding a good opponent actually can be a gift.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I noticed from other like guests on the tour is that when I handled the problem with enthusiasm, people had a better time. They didn't even care about the problem
Better than with
or the fact that there was
defensiveness.
one. Now, if I handled it with enthusiasm, then everyone was like, "This is really great. You did a great job." You know, maybe even the person that was being difficult is also now having a good time. It, Problems are going to exist. There's no reason why uh, we should let them like get the better of us during the day, you know. And I think that always comes back to like flexibility and persistence. You're always going to have problems. It's just the nature of how things work. What's important is like how you get around it or solve it, and you know, try to enjoy it because, like you said, it's going to make you grow. you're going to be better after you deal with it. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I have yet to see somebody who's not been better after solving one of their problems.
Totally agree with that. I think it's also a great transition to, almost all of the people I interviewed, they say, hey, one of the things that really helped me to grow out of my fucked up mindset, right, and to level up is having a good coach. Because a coach helped me to see these things, these blind spots, ask good questions, helped me here and there, and it allowed me to do sometimes even like they're super explicit about it. They said like the first 10 years I worked without a coach, and then I got a coach, and I did the same like in 1 year and so on, right? So and then that's also connected to the size of your business is a function of where you are in your mind. So if you know how to make $1 million, you will make $1 million, and so on and so forth. So your personal growth, your business is a function of your personal growth. And for that reason, coaches have a good ROI, or can have a good ROI if you have the right one. So that means if you work either with a coach from the Plus team, like you guys, or with some other coach out there, it doesn't matter. But I think a coach, if you get the right one, can really make a difference to everything that we just talked about in the last 1.5 hours. What do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Having someone to hold that mirror up for you, like you said, ask the right questions, listen, tell you what you should focus on, tell you what not to even stress about, especially what not to stress about. Like, forget it. It doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about that. That's for the future. Like you said, Mark, like today, or better yet, Matt, now, right? Let's just do now.
Yeah, agreed. I think a good coach is going to be somebody who has some self-awareness for themselves. They can empathize. And I think if you can have somebody who's detached from your life, who can then listen to what you're telling and say, hey, like, we shouldn't worry about that right now, or that's not even a problem. Something, that mirror, to have that feedback, that's going to be invaluable, and it can be the difference in progressing. That, or go to therapy.
Right.
Yeah.
And why many people maybe say, yeah, this is my spouse, or like my partner in crime, I can tell her anything, and so on. In many cases, there's a conflict of interest, and there's love involved, right? And you don't always get the actual answer, the actual truth, because they love you, right? They want that you are feeling good, and they don't want to put you into suffer and pain and all of these things. So I think try it out, test it, whatever it is. If it's with Plus or someone else, doesn't matter. So I would say it was a beautiful conversation. If you like the conversation, give it a thumbs up, follow, subscribe to the channel, check out Passion.io, the Plus program. Reach out. We are here. We're happy to answer questions, and see you in the next video.
Ciao.
Peace.